Good evening. If we have to analyze today's budget, that's almost been pitted as a green budget by many people in the government or sympathizers of the government. I think it's not more than a green wash budget rather than a green budget, because there are lots of ironies, a lot of double speak that has actually happened in this particular budget, which actually is so-called green budget, but actually it's a greenwash budget. And I really want to point out a few things that's actually come out in this budget. There's been first very important thing. There's enough evidence for all of us to know, and enough scientific evidence for us to know that interlinking of rivers or interlinking of river project has actually done more damage than the promise of doing good. And despite that knowledge being in public domain, and we are talking specifically in terms of Ken Betwa River project, despite that case study in front of us, today's budget actually has cleared five more, or has proposed to have five more interlinking river interlinking projects, so which is really something which is extremely dangerous. I should also point out the fact that, imagine there is a net zero target that we actually have of 2070. Our honorable prime minister went to Glasgow and has spoken highly about India's stance or India's commitment towards climate change, or towards stopping climate change in the sense. But if you look at the entire budget, there actually has been a 10 crore reduction in climate change action plan budget, which was only 40 crores last year, and that has actually been brought down to 30 crores. Similar to that, if you look at clean air budget, that there's been a reduction in clean air budget as well. And in fact, we don't even know how was the NCAP budget, which was there, the clean air budget that was there for last financial year, which was somewhere around 450, 460 odd crores. How has that been spent? And despite we not even knowing how that money is being spent by the central government or respective state governments, we have further reduction in the clean air project. The other very damaging thing that has actually happened is that the government has found a shortcut route. There was a whole hue and cry, and there was a lot of protest around environmental clearance, or EIA. And today, what the government has actually proposed in its budget is that there is going to be a single window portal clearance when it comes to environmental clearance by the corporates. So ease of doing business has become more important, and it is calling itself and creating an enabling environment. But this ease of doing business or enabling environment has happened at the cost of our environment, has made it almost like environmental clearance has become just a formality for the government. And that's what this entire budget actually proposes. Imagine the irony is that you want to have a world class modern infrastructure in the country, and that cannot happen unless and until you actually compromise on the environment. And that's exactly what this entire budget actually proposes. There are a few good things there in the budget as well, like the battery swapping system that's been proposed for electric vehicles. This entire biomass pellets, that's almost 5 to 7% use of biomass pellets by thermal power plants. But I think that's only one part of the problem that you want to solve. As in, thermal power plants are a problem. You can't solve the problem by just bringing in 5% to 7% of biomass pellets, because the problem is you can't just find a solution to stubble burning. You'll have to stop stubble burning, and to stop stubble burning, you'll actually have to invest in farming, invest in agriculture, bring in agricultural reforms, and that's where you will perhaps be able to have a long-term solution to stubble burning. And this budget today is completely silent on what is it actually doing to stop this entire stubble burning process, and therefore incentivize farmers for crop rotation and for other incentives. Similarly, there's been an increase in Jal Mission budget. It's almost like 60,000 crores that's been allocated for Jal Mission. But there's no talk about how are we actually looking at our rivers. Of course, there is a conversation in this budget about how organic farming, or technically speaking, what the budget says is chemical-free farming, will actually be promoted on the banks of Ganga. But that's not how that can't be the only thing. That's a very small solution to a very big problem of river pollution or surface water pollution or groundwater pollution, groundwater contamination, as well as extinction in that sense that we're talking about. There's nothing that's been spoken about rejuvenation of our rivers or protecting our rivers or recharging or our groundwater in the sense. The violations that have been taking place in our forest areas, there's very little or nothing that's actually been stated with regard to that as well. So I think it's a lost opportunity. I thought that 2020, when we're actually dealing with public health crisis and public economy crisis, and both are interlinked, and there's enough knowledge and wisdom and information around that, I thought this budget would have been slightly brave, slightly also the backdrop. We have had Glasgow summit and India talking about this. I thought India would have done much better. This current budget should have actually done much better. But unfortunately, it's just a green wash budget rather than a green budget. Interlinking of rivers in this century, you're talking about single window clearance for projects, you mega infrastructure projects that you are proposing, and at the same time proposing single window clearance. This can't go hand in hand. Solar and batteries and all of that is very good, but that's too little, too late. And also, for a country like India, for a budget like this, we should have thought brave, thought big, and thought concrete, and that's all totally missing in this current budget.